welcome back. When a marriage ends, should financial support be automatic or should it be based on need? Yuzvendra Chahal and Dhanashree Verma, of course, the one couple that everyone's obsessing over on social media, are officially divorced. And we wish them, thankfully, a happier life separate than they were together. But what's dominating the headlines? Is this figure of 4.75 crore in alimony. Yes, it's not 60 crores, which was being widely speculated and rumored for weeks. It's now 4.75 crores in alimony. Now, Dhanashree Verma is a successful social media influencer. Yet, she's still receiving a very hefty settlement in the form of 4.75 crores, prompting a familiar debate. If a woman is financially independent, why should she get alimony? Now, legally, alimony exists to support a spouse. Now, understand here, a spouse is gender neutral in this case. It can be a man or a woman who may struggle financially post-divorce. But we all know, in practice, it generally is used to benefit a woman. When both partners are earning well, should the law still mandate these payouts? The Hindu Marriage Act, as we said, allows either spouse to claim alimonies, but in most cases, the man who pays, even if the woman is financially stable. In India, men paying alimony is the norm. Should it be the default? In countries like the United States and the United Kingdom, alimony is time-bound or transitional. Should India move in that direction? What happens when the tables turn? There have been cases where high-earning women have had to pay alimony, but how often do we see that? So is it time really to rethink alimony laws in India? Should support be merit-based, not automatic? Or does a marriage create obligations that extend beyond just emotional ties? That's the question we are going to ask. I'm being joined by four very capable and competent women who are much more equipped in this field than I am, and thankfully we will get to learn a lot from them. I'm Tasneem Siddiquee, who's a senior advocate, Khushbu Jain, advocate from the Supreme Court, Rishika Dhawan, who's also an advocate and managing partner at MR Lexcorp, and I'm also being joined by Deepika Bhardwaj, who's a documentary and filmmaker. Good evening to all of you women. The last time we had an all-women panel on Men's Show, I was soundly criticized on social media for not having a men's voice, but I think we have enough people who can represent men, and we don't need necessarily men to represent women. But anyway, let me start with you, Deepika. Deepika, can you set the debate for us at this point? The question that comes out is that at the end of the day, Yuzvendra Chahal, and today he had, if you can run those visuals, he came wearing a t-shirt saying that get your own sugar daddy or something like that. Yuzvendra Chahal is earning in crores and crores of rupees at this point. 4.75 crores is nothing for him, and it's much less than the 60 crore which was very irresponsibly touted for a long time on social media. Why should there be such a hullabaloo over the fact that he has to pay 4.75 crores when he can easily afford it?
Well, it's not about, I think, affording it. Anybody can afford anything. The point over here is, at least as per what internet shows, Dhanashree herself has assets and properties or wealth worth 24 crores. She has no dearth of money. The marriage was extremely short-lived. It was just 18 months. There is no child. She is an empowered woman. It's not that she has taken a break after marriage. Her career has only flourished after marriage with Yuzvendra Chahal. So why 5 crores of alimony? The simple question is that, on one hand, we are saying that we are equally capable of to men. We are in no way lesser than men. We can do everything that men can do. We are not dependent on men. But at the same time, when divorce happens and we suddenly become this, that, okay, we need financial security and all that. I find this hypocritical, Ritangshu. It's not about what the husband can afford or what the wife cannot afford. If it is about, are they at a difference where such an extraordinary amount is justified? And what's the message that it's giving out to society? The most important point here, it is not mandate. It is what has been drawn as a settlement between both, Ritangshu. And the reason for that is the images that you showed. You see what is happening to Mohammed Shami, has been battling a divorce battle for years. Shikhar Dhawan, we have seen what he's going through, despite spending so much, not even being able to see his child. So it's this trauma that comes with the divorce battles in the country that men usually say that, okay, take the money and please leave me.
Okay, let me try and explain, for the benefit of viewers, let me try and explain how basic alimony works, the principles of it, then we get into nuances. I have three lawyers who can correct me if I soundly go wrong. If the man is earning 60 lakh and if the woman is earning, if the wife is earning 20 lakhs, they assume that the total income of the family or the duo is 80 lakhs, and therefore everyone is entitled to roughly 40 lakhs of income, or a standard of living which is bought by 40 lakhs. Which is why when a woman then takes a divorce, or both of them take a divorce, a woman is entitled to 20 lakhs to bridge her salary with the 40 lakhs to ensure that her standard of living remains the same after marriage. Now, Tasneem Siddiquee, if I'm not mistaken, this concept or this notion in the law exists because many women have had to put their careers on the back burners in order to when they get married, in order to raise families, in order to be homemakers, in order to be working wives, working homemakers, raise children, and so on. So you cannot leave them alone on the basis of a compromised career once they don't have the security of a primary breadwinner, which is the husband in this case. I get that basic principle, but should that be applied en masse, even in the cases as we have seen with people like Dhanashree Verma, who, as Deepika has pointed out, her career only grew when she collaborated with Yuzvendra and his social media clout on several platforms. So there's no indication of Dhanashree Verma ever having to put a career on the back burner after her marriage. So why should she be entitled to even greater standard of living?
Okay, let me answer this in a different way. Firstly, we are analyzing two different aspects. On the one hand, we're talking about women who have had to put their careers on hold, and there has been a loss of income and earning, and it's not on par with the husband, considering the scenario where both husband and wife are earning and have their own individual careers. We are talking about a contested divorce there. In this particular aspect, this divorce that we're talking about is a divorce by mutual consent. I have no idea why it is open for public scrutiny, because what consent terms are signed between any couple in a mutual consent divorce, it is by their choice. Even courts cannot intervene or question the alimony being paid, whether it is more, whether it is less. It is solely at the discretion of one party who's giving the alimony, the other party who's accepting that alimony. So to say that it is more, it is less, it is unjustified is not even open for a public debate or scrutiny, because we don't know what the circumstances of the marriage were, why it broke down. It could be very different for all the different couples. I'm maybe generalizing. I'm not talking about this specific couple, but a lot of times people who enter mutual consent divorce settlements, and we often find that it's the celebrities who prefer doing out of court settlements rather than common people. Celebrities do that because they don't want to come under the media glare, or they don't want to wash their dirty linen in public. Now, by and large, when a marriage breaks down, it is wise to go ahead, settle it out of court instead of fighting the battle for years and years. Then the quantum of alimony, maintenance, and all other aspects, whether there are children, no children, it boils down to what the couple is deciding. It could be based on various factors. One party could be a wrongdoer in the marriage. It could be, and I'm just generalizing, you're not talking about a specific case. It could be that the man or the woman has moved on in the marriage, and it is as a compensation that you want to pay a certain amount as a settlement, or that they both are wise enough to understand that there is no future in the marriage, and it would be better to come to certain terms without fighting it out in court. So who are we to decide what that quantum should be, what has happened in the marriage, and what each party should give or not receive?
I'm very glad you have made one thing very clear, and I'm very glad that you have explained it very succinctly. This was not the first important thing our viewers need to understand, is this was not an alimony settlement made by the court. It was a mutual decision, mutual divorce, in which both parties agreed on the figure. Now, the problem with what you've said, Tasneem ji, is that indicates that in a mutual divorce, both parties are truly on equitable footings in which there is no coercion, there is no compulsion, there is no pressure tactics at play. Rishika Dhawan, is that generally the case when two couples when two parties of an estranged marriage go in for a mutual divorce together? Is it generally so equitable and so amicable that, one person asks for a certain amount of money and the other person is readily, out of the goodness of his heart, willing to offer that money? Rishika, I think you're muted, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
Absolutely not. Who would want to pay 5 crores out of their pocket? If everything was fine, the marriage would have been running. So these 90% of the cases, it is the man paying the woman. It is the gold going to the woman. It is the money going to the woman. The negotiations, while it is an amicable settlement, what goes prior to that settlement is something that's concerning. Here, one would want to avoid a lot of litigations. One would want to avoid their dirty linens being washed in open forums, hence the settlement. And ideally, whether it's a commoner or a celebrity, these monies are decided just to close the matter at the end. There have been cases whether it was just the couple or with children as well. The money keeps increasing. The more at stake, the more the money. Here we have to understand that it's not just a settlement, it is a conversation of how this settlement has been attained. It's not as gender neutral, it's not as amicable. And if it is not amicable, it ideally is not settlement, it's just closure. Somehow the person would want to get out of the whole arrangement at the soonest. Whether, if at all, say, let's assume Chahal would have had a child, would the settlement amount just be 5 crores? Whether the visitation rights, whether the rest of the rights would have been a part of the settlement and would have been adhered? So these are some of the questions that is required to be addressed. While it is a legal arrangement, settlement is a part, courts would not intervene and it would be settled. But then it also shows that here Dhanashree did not need money to settle the matter. If they were not getting along, there were other better ways of just communicating each other. While one is worthy of good 45 crores, the other one is worthy of 25 crores, it's sufficient to survive. And people, both of them are earning money. So whether this 5 crore, although not that big an amount, for Chahal to pay Dhanashree, whether this was required to be paid, and would settlement really be settlement the way it is if it was amicably settled between the parties that they're not getting along well, both of them are independent enough and they can move out of the marriage without much halabaloo, without much of contesting the whole discussion with money.
Khushbu Jain, see, I don't want to delve too deep into the Dhanashree Chahal case because, as everyone will admit, we don't know the details about it. We don't know how amicable it was. I'm just using this example to delve deeper into the larger issues of alimony. And as Rishika pointed out, Khushbu Jain, you also probably agree with me. Reaching the state of a mutual divorce when you file a joint petition before the judge saying that you want to separate, the stages going to that is a lot like a boardroom negotiations. You have both partners with the lawyers trying very hard to bargain and negotiate over it. And there is always this elephant in the room of the threat of false cases. There's a threat of a long period of harassment for both sides at this point. And at the end of the day, whichever party has more leverage succumbs in the form of a very manipulative on settlement, which is then presented as quote-unquote mutual. Is that a practice which, as Tasneem ji is pointing out, the courts really have no business looking into? Because we have discussed about how laws are being misused all in order to ensure there's a hefty payout in a mutual settlement.
When you talk about mutual arrangement or a settlement between the two parties, neither the court, neither you and me, none of us have anything to do with it. Two people want to stay with each other, with or without marriage, after marriage, how they want to stay, how they want to separate, and what are the terms and conditions of their separation is something between the two parties or the families. There is nothing to be decided or for us to put our pros upon that, how much money she's charging, asking for or not asking for, whether she's entitled, not entitled. This is something between the two parties and none of us should be interfering into that. But yes, the larger issue that comes, and I think I would want to agree with you in that part, that today is the time where we are fighting towards the aspect of equality and equity, and we are saying that we as women want to have our rights equally, we want to work. And yes, the alimony was based on the aspect that one party takes care of the home, she's a home giver and all those things. With that comes the aspect that because she has put in so much an effort, the husband is putting an effort when it comes to bringing in the money. So their status is practically equal. So when there is a parting way from that marriage, that status should be the one which should be the deciding factor when it comes to quantum of alimony that should be paid to the other party. Based on that is where we have been seeing how things have been decided. Okay. But today, still we are in that situation. If you'll see, there are hardly not even 10% of the women who are in that status where we have that continued financial or independency when it comes to we are fighting for it, for women to be independent, to be financially independent, to be there, and we are going there. So yes, laws should evolve, but till the time the laws are not evolved, the aspect of shaming the women for asking for alimony is something which is not a right way of doing it by the society, by you, by me, by any one of us, because there is something which is existing and she is asking for it. Nothing is wrong in that aspect, but yes, whether law should evolve with the time, yes, it should evolve. Whether that should be case-to-case basis, yes, it should be case-to-case basis decided that what is the status of the women, financial status of the women, how much effort or years have been put in and compromising part, and those factors which are there when it comes to deciding the quantum of alimony, yes, those should be applicable case-to-case basis. But whether a woman has a right to ask for it or not, yes, the law gives you the right to ask for it and there should be a way to right to ask for it, and one should not use the names as gold digger attached to it, or whether it is wrong or shameful for her to ask.
You mentioned a very important point, Khushbuji, and I want to bring in Deepika at this point. Deepika, while yes, you and others have rightly argued on this forum many times that the laws are biased towards women, let's also agree that the system is very disgustingly patriarchal and is inherently slanted against women. We have seen the horrific levels of trolling. Since we're talking of this case, we've seen the horrific levels of trolling that Dhanashree Verma has gone through for several years now on our social media platforms, even till this date. We still don't know what brought their marriage to an end, but Yuzvendra has never gone through anything close to that. Even in this case, there was this figure which of 60 crores which was going around, which led to a lot of criticism for Dhanashree. In that case, given the fact that it's a lot harder for a woman, even of Dhanashree Verma's status, to continue with life after being divorced, given how social biases still exist, isn't there some sort of compensation she's justified to at the end of the day?
Well, I am not too sure, Ritangshu. If we are saying we don't know what has happened in the marriage and we don't know what is the facts of the case, then let us not assume that Dhanashree is also a victim. Given their celebrity status, in fact, this was one of the arguments that
in
the
the
couple
public
had
eye,
said
there's only one person who has been shamed, no, Deepika? I'm sure even you will agree that only Dhanashree has been shamed and called the worst kind of abuses. Yuzvendra has not been called that.
There are all kind of comments that are coming against Yuzi as well. People are saying he's a cheater. He has cheated in the marriage. There are people who are writing all kind of comments, Ritangshu. It's just that what women are called usually gets amplified. But if you remember Shikhar Dhawan's case, earlier when his wife had put out a post that, she's going for a divorce for the second time, everybody made assumptions that Shikhar has done something wrong. So it doesn't go one way. It goes either ways. Men are also blamed all the time that he's infidel. Hardik Pandya case also, if you would have seen, everybody was saying, he's a philanderer, he's a womanizer, he's this, is that. People judge on social media, people judge both the people. It's not different. But to the earlier panelist, Ritangshu, fine, it is a mutual amicable divorce. We cannot discuss, but let us talk about what is the message that's going out in the society. Just today, Delhi High Court has taken up a case where the woman was being told by her mother that you please do not take up a job when your marriage is breaking down because it will lose the chances of your alimony. There are a lot of judgments that have come where the woman has, despite being educated, despite being totally capable, is sitting at home in order to take a maintenance or alimony. That is not the message that should go out in the society. And unfortunately, in these cases, people don't put so much of understanding whether this is contested or this is mutual, whether it was decided or the court said it. People see that, okay, if a woman who is so well earning is also getting 5 crores of alimony, then bhaiya, if our marriage breaks down, then even if we are working and we are all okay, we have the right to alimony. This right is, in my opinion,
I get it. You're saying that this sends out a very negative message and will encourage people to misuse the law. In this case, I have I have 3 minutes on the panel, and since I have 3 lawyers, Deepika ji, point taken. I don't want to cut you short, but I just want to get in quick response of the other three lawyers. Since we have three lawyers, I'll start with Tasneem ji. The simple question to all three of you is that should the law be, at least the application of the law, change to be looking at each case on merit and not blanketly assuming that the woman needs more alimony? Tasneem Siddiquee, 1 minute to each of you. Tasneem ji, starting with you.
This is very much happening. There is no blanket rule. There is no benchmark standard orders being given. We are seeing that the judges are also applying their mind. We have certain judgments. There's a very famous landmark judgment of Rajneesh versus Neha, which is used by all family court practitioners. This judgment is exhaustive in dealing with maintenance issues, whether under 125 CRPC, under DV, under Hindu Maintenance Act, Adoption and Maintenance Act, across the board. So what we see is that the judges also have certain standard procedures which they are following, understanding the income of both the parties.
So you're saying, Tasneem ji, this is already happening. But again, this is the judgment you mentioned is in the form of a contested divorce, which is seen on its own merit. Rarely do individual cases of alimony for domestic violence, dowry, etc. go. They often converge when it comes to coming up with negotiations for a mutual divorce. Khushbu Jain, your point.
No, I absolutely agree with the earlier panelist, and yes, it has been happening. Not that it is not happening. I don't personally deal with matrimonial cases, so she'll be the better one to say. But yes, I would say that there are ways that the courts are looking into it. There are judgments which you see across where they are deciding the quantum of maintenance, whether maintenance should be given, not given, is being decided on a lot of factors, including financial capability and earning power of the women or the men for that matter, because it's a spouse. It is there, but yes, I would say that there can be a little bit of more involvement, a little bit of speedy trial when it comes to matrimonial related, all other matters which are there in the court, like other issues which you're talking about. And I think when it comes to discussions between two people, which is husband and a wife, and what kind of amount should be shared between the two, I think it's a give and take relationship, whether money or personal. And I think all of us should refrain ourselves from objectifying any of the spouse.
Rishika, I'll come to you. Okay, Rishika, you have the last word. Your take. Rishika, you need to unmute. I'm sorry.
Yes, the judges are putting in all their emotional and practical brains into the matters today. So blindly allow the matrimonial amount to be given to the lady, the alimony to be given to the lady. There have been cases even in high courts these days where the judges have asked the woman, if you're educated enough, why don't you take up a job? Why do you want to survive off the money of the husband? At times they have stopped the matter, waited for the courts for the woman to get a job, and during that time they've only given the support money. So yes, there is a progress in the way the courts are also thinking. But yes, we also need to see how it has to be given to weigh the requirement of the matter. Wherever it is required, yes, it is required. Where the person cannot go out, they have more than one children. There have been situations where women are independent enough and yet asking for alimony. So whether it's a rural arrangement or an urban arrangement, the courts have to put in all their efforts to understand whether it's a fair case or not.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me on this panel, on this important show, Deepika, Rishika, Tasneem ji, and also Khushbu. It's the purpose behind it is to only increase awareness and not to incite hatred towards any specific gender. With that, I wrap up. Shreya Upadhyay is on the other side with Nation Tonight and Global Mirror. Thanks for watching.